So till now we have been writing Python programs without defining our own functions. That means we have written the code outside a function. We have been using or calling only the predefined functions like print and some functions like index or list or copy, several other functions which we have used with lists, tuples, and dictionaries. So all those are predefined functions. We are just making a call to those functions, right? But we didn't define our own function in our programs and make a call to those functions till now. So Python allows you to define your own functions by using a keyword called def. Def stands for definition. So if you want to define a function, then you have to use this keyword def. If you observe in C language or in Java, every function that matters, functions are called as methods in Java. So in C, I'm audible till now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if you observe the functions in C or Java, they have something called return type, uh, function name, and list of parameters, right? But coming to Python, we need not mention any return type for a function because Python itself will not allow you to use any keywords for mentioning the data type of any variable, right? So when you don't use any keyword to declare a variable of a particular type, then how can you mention the return type of a function? You cannot do that. So we'll use a keyword called def to define a function. So the function syntax will be like this. The keyword def followed by name of the function, and within the parenthesis you can have parameters, and then after the parenthesis you must give a colon symbol because function is also a block of statements, right? Just like a for block, if block, while block, even functions are also a block of statements. So when you want to begin a block of statements, what you need to do, you need to give a colon symbol, and followed by that all the statements that you want to put inside these functions must be indented, right? So we'll use indentation here also. So I'll use the same tab space of indentation. You can write any statements here. Statement 1, statement 2. So like this you can create any number of statements like this. If you want, you can also return a value to the calling place. So by using the return keyword, you can return any value to the place from where you call that function, right? I hope you know what is a return type and what are parameters to your function. All of you, all three.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What about Sandeep? Hello, Sandeep. Are you there? Okay then. So you can return any value here by using a return statement. So this is how a function looks like. So we'll see uh, some programs, practical programs, how to define a function and how to make a call to that function. So making a call to the function is simple. After you define this function, if you don't want to write any statements inside the function, but you want to write some statements outside a function, then remove the indentation and start writing the statements. Okay. So now say if I'll use a print statement here and display a message say, so this statement which I wrote outside of this function, okay, will be automatically executed when you run this Python file. But the statements which are part of this function will not be executed automatically. You must make a call to this function. Unless you make a call to this function, the statements inside this function block will not be executed. So what we need to do to make a call, so just use the function name, function underscore name, and if any parameters are there, you need to pass those parameters. So it is similar to C and Java, passing parameters. Each parameter must be separated by a comma, and you need not specify the data type for those parameters, because in Python for variables we don't use any keywords, right, to declare them. So in the same way for parameters also we don't require to specify the data type of those parameters. So if it is in C and Java, what we do for every parameter individually, will mention the data type of those parameter, right? Here you need not specify that. Directly you can mention the parameter names directly. Okay, so this is how you create a function. So now let us see some examples. So look at this program. I've written this program to compute the factorial of a given number. So for that, what I am doing is I'm defining a function called factorial. So how to define a function? Use a keyword def followed by the name of the function. So what is the name of the function that I choose here? Factorial. And how many parameters it is receiving? It is receiving one parameter. Okay. So, and all these statements which have this indentation up to here are all part of this factorial function now. And the remaining statements which are written, the last three statements, they are not part of the function. So which statement will be executed first? Those statements which are outside the functions will be executed first. Okay, when you run this program, because unless you make a call to the function, the code that is written inside that function will not be executed. So we cannot execute this factorial function code directly soon after you run your program. First, these statements will be executed which are outside the function, and out in these statements we must make a call to the factorial function that we define at the top. Okay, so first what I am doing is I'm prompting the user using the input function to enter an integer and converting it into an integer format and storing it in A, right? Then what I am doing, I am making a call to the factorial function by passing that value of A as parameter to this factorial function. Then what is this factorial function going to do? After executing all the statements that are part of this function, it is going to return a value that is nothing but the value of variable f. So that will be substituted here in place of this function call. Then that value will be assigned to n. So after returning back from the function call, what will be there in n? Whatever value returned by this factorial function. So this factorial function is going to return the factorial value of that particular value we passed as parameter to this function. That is nothing but a here, right? So it is going to find out the factorial of a and store it in f and return the value of f, so that the value of f will be assigned to n. So now if you want to print the factorial of a, how to print it? Print the value of n. Factorial of percentile d is percentile d. So first time we are seeing this format specifiers in Python, right? So just like in printf function and scanf functions in C, we use format specifiers like percentile C, percentile D, percentile LD, percentile F, right? So these are all format specifiers. They'll specify the data type of that particular variable that we are printing. So we can print that value using the format specifier even in print function in Python also. We'll get back to this concept later. First we'll see how the factorial function gets executed, and then we'll discuss about this format specifiers later, right? So soon after you make a call to the factorial function by passing this a, for example, I have given the value of a is 5, then 5 will be passed to this factorial function as parameter, and inside the function definition, the first statement is we are declaring a variable f and initializing it to 1. Then using the for loop for I in range 1 comma a plus 1, because I'm taking a plus 1 because I want to include a value also, so I'm taking a plus 1. So this is the logic for computing the factorial. So after all the iterations are completed, then what will be there in f? The value factorial of that value 5. So we are returning that f value, so that will be returned and stored in n, right? So now coming back to this print statement, uh, you can use these percentile d specifiers just like you used it in C language with the same names, percentile d, percentile f, like this, percentile s, like this you can use. But look at the parameters that I passed. The string parameter, this is string parameter which is enclosed in double quotes, right? So after that, no need to give a comma here. Instead of that, we have to use a percentage symbol, and within the parenthesis you need to specify uh, what values you want to win in what values you want to display in place of this percentile d and this second percentile d here, right? So first percentile d corresponds to the value of a, so within the parenthesis first you give a, then give a comma, second percentile d corresponds to n, so you will mention n here. So if there are 3 or 4 like that percentile d format specifiers in your print statement, then you have to mention all those variables names whose values you are wishing to display in place of these specifiers within the parenthesis. Don't give a comma after the double quote is closed. Okay, so just give a percentage symbol, and within the parenthesis you have to specify a comma n. So this is going to print an output factorial of 5 is 120. Okay, so there is another way also for this one. Instead of using percentile format specifier, we can also use another way. I'll tell you later. So we'll see today itself that thing also. So now let us execute this program and see. So the name of the file is function.py. So Python function.py. So it is asking me to enter an integer. So I am entering 9. So factorial of 9 is 3,62,080. 880. Okay. So you understood, right, how to define a function and how to make a call to that function. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you have to remember one thing. You cannot write the complete program code only within a function. Okay. So say for example, can I write this code directly without this one? So if I write the program like this, will it work? If I now run this program, will you get any output?
No, sir.
You'll not get any output, right? Why?
Function call is not happening.
Yeah, you're not making a function call, right? So
Yes.
let me save this program and execute it and show it to you. I'm not getting any output, right? So why? Let us discuss about this thing a little bit elaborately. If it is in C or Java, we'll write the code only within the functions. We'll not be writing the code outside a function, like in Python, right? So because you write the entire code in one or more functions in a C program, and the functions get executed only when they are called. So if all the code is placed inside of some functions, there must be at least one function which will be called at the beginning. Then from there you can call the remaining functions, right? Yes or no? So if there is no such function which will be called first from outside a program when you run the program, then how will your program get executed? So that's the reason why they introduced a function called main function in C programming. And when you run your C program, automatically the main function gets executed. It will be invoked, and from the main function, then you will call the other functions. So that's the reason why we call main is the starting point of execution of a C program. It is the same even in Java also. But coming to Python, Python will not ask you to write the code within a function. It will allow you to write the code outside a function. But the rule for function is same as it is in C and Java. That means whenever you call a function, then only the code inside that function gets executed. If you don't make a call to that function, then the code inside that function will not be executed. So from where to make a call, we don't have such a starting point of execution in Python. Just like you have a main function in C and main method in Java, we don't have any such starting point for execution in your Python program, right? So automatically the program execution starts from the first line in your .py file, which is outside of all the functions, right? So is there any line that I wrote here now after rewriting this program? Is there any line which is outside of all the functions? There is no line, right? All the lines, all the statements, I have put them inside the factorial function. So there will not be a starting point for execution for this program. So as a result, the factorial function will not be called and you will not get any output. So that's the reason why we need to put this statement after the function here.
Sir, once again tell the reason.
Yeah, let me come. So the reason is, in C language, you have a starting point for execution of your program, that is the main function. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
We say uh, main is a starting point of execution for a C program. So what we'll do, we'll define a function, main function, like this in a C program. So we'll write some uh, set of statements here within this main function, right? And we'll also define, it depends on the program whether it is a simple program or a complex program. It may or may not include additional functions other than main function. If it is a complex function, so let us assume that there is another function called read function, which is defined outside the main, below the main, like this. It has some set of statements, and there is another function called write function, like this. So if all these functions are written like this, let us assume that in C language we don't have a direct call to the main function, right? We'll assume that main is also similar to read and write function. So as per the rule for functions, the code that is written inside any function will be executed only when the function is called, right? So even the main function has some code, and if it has to be executed, then the main function also must be called. Without calling it, the code inside that main function will not be executed. And coming to the read function also, the code inside this read function also will not be executed until you make a call to this read function. Similarly, write function also, right? So if all these functions don't get executed, then how will your program start its execution? There must be some point, there must be some exemption out of these three functions. For any one function, there must be some exemption that it will be automatically called, right? Then if you invoke one function, then the main function will invoke the remaining functions. That means, so if I invoke this main function, and here if I write a statement for calling a read function, then this will invoke the read function. Then similarly, if I want to invoke write function, I can invoke write function, right? So if I don't want to invoke this write function here, at least I can invoke here somewhere in the read function also I can invoke it, right? So if you make an entry point to the main function first, then from main read will be called, and from read write will be called. So in that way, all the code will be executed in your program. First starting from main function, then we'll execute the code inside main function, and the code inside the main function will make a call to read function. So as a result, the code inside the read function gets executed, and again the code inside read function invokes the write function, and finally the write function code also will be executed. So this is how execution flows in your C program, right? Because there is a restriction that you cannot write any code in outside a main function, outside any function. So we need to write the code within the function only. But coming to Python, how Python is written, how Python program is written, we need not define any functions like main, read, all these things, right? We can write the code outside these functions, and automatically the code is being executed. How it is being executed? When you run that .py file, uh, any code which is there in that file which is outside the function, outside of any function, if at all, if a function is defined, if no function is defined, then there is no problem, all the code will be executed automatically. But if a function is defined, the function will not be called automatically, right? And there must be some way to make a call to those functions in Python also. So what is that way? The code which is outside of all the functions is the only way to make a call to the functions defined in the .py file, right? Because automatically Python program starts executing the code which is outside of all the functions. In our example that we have taken, how many functions are there? How many functions we have defined? Only one function. So the code inside this function will not be executed unless we call it, right? So look at the code that is written outside the function. How many lines of code is written? 3 lines of code is written outside the function. So execution of your program begins with this statement first. The first statement which is outside of all the functions, that gets executed first, right? Then the next statement, and then the next statement, the final one, third statement. So if at all, if you want to make a call to this function, from where you have to make a call? Because the program begins execution from here, outside the function. So here somewhere in this 3 lines of code, you have to make a call to the function. Then only your function gets executed. So there is no specific point like a main function which will start execution in your program, right? So but in coming to Python program, there is no such main function. So instead, the program execution begins from the first line which is outside of all the functions, and and continue executing all the lines in that set of statements that are there outside the functions. And in those statements, you have to make a call to the functions that you defined in the program. Then if you make a call to one function, from there you can make a call to another function. So in that way, all the functions in your program can be called. Okay. So that is the only way to make a call to functions in Python program. Got it?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So now let us see some more functions here. So now look at this program. How many functions are defined?
Two,
How many functions are defined?
two functions.
I didn't get you. One or two?
The two, sir.
Okay, two functions are defined. So the first function is fun1, right? Fun1. It receives two parameters and it has only one statement, that is a print statement. And the second function name is fun2. It does not receive any parameter and it contains three statements till here, right? So look at this last line of your program. So what is this doing? It is making a call to fun2, right? So your program execution begins from here because this is the only statement where which is written outside of all the two functions. So there are two functions. So outside these two functions, what is the code written here? Only one statement is written. So that statement is nothing but making a call to the function 2, right? So when you make a call to the function 2, then the code inside this fun2 will be executed. So what is this code doing? It is reading first integer and storing it in x, and reading second integer and storing it in y, and then making a call to fun1, that is function 1, by passing this x and y as parameters. Then from here you are making a call to function 1, so the code here in function 1 also gets executed right now. So now the entire program statements are being executed in this way. First this statement gets executed, then these three statements get executed, and in the last statement of this fun2 you are making a call to the remaining function, that is fun1, and this is executed and this will print the values of a and b. So what are a and b? They are nothing but x and y values. You are passing them as parameters to fun1, right? So when you pass them as parameters, you need not use the same names x and y. Instead you can use a different name. So these are the actual parameters x and y. These are the formal parameters. So you know this concept in C language, right? Actual parameters and formal parameters. The values that you pass actually when you make a call to that function, they are called as actual parameters, and the value or the variable names that you use inside the function definition of whichever function you call, that names are nothing but called as formal parameters or duplicate parameters. So you can use the same name for the actual parameters and formal parameters, but it leads to a confusion and you may think that both these x and y are same physically, but they are not physically same. They are different. X will be allocated different memory location memory, and a also will be allocated with a different memory. Okay. Similarly, b will be allocated a different memory and y will be allocated a different memory. So to differentiate them, we'll be using a different names for them, for actual parameters and for formula or duplicate parameters. Okay. So this is another example for using functions, user defined functions. So in the previous example, we have defined only one function, and now in this example, we have defined two functions. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Now let me run this program. We are just passing the x and y values to fun1 and just printing these values. That's it. Whatever values you entered, the same values you are printing them using fun2, fun1. Okay. Okay. So now let us see. Now that you understood how to define functions and how to make a call to these functions, and when you write functions in your program, how the program gets executed, and all this you understood now, right? So now let us see in how many ways you can pass parameters to the functions. We have only a specific way in C and Java, but Python allows you to pass them in different way. So for example, Python allows you to pass variable length parameters, which is not supported in C and Java. Okay. And Python allows you to pass keyword parameters. We have used keyword parameters in print function earlier. So we have used the end keyword and sep separator keyword, right, in print function. So they are called as keyword parameters. So we'll be using now in our normal user defined functions also here. So first one is variable length parameters or arbitrary parameters, you can say. Both are same. Both are interchangeable. Arbitrary parameters or variable length parameters. And then you have keyword parameters. And one more thing is you have default parameters. Default parameters. So we'll see each one with some examples. So first we'll start with now that we have seen these normal parameters that we are passing, that is fixed length parameters. Sandeep,
Yes, sir.
yeah, would you like to say something?
No, sir. I'm
Okay,
just checking my audio.
okay, mute it.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you are audible.
Okay.
Fine. So we'll see uh, till now whatever functions we have defined in the two programs that we have seen till now, they are using fixed length parameters. That means when you define the function, how many parameters are there? For example, this for fun one, there are two parameters. So when you are making a call to that function, also you will be passing the same number of parameters. There is no change in it. So these are fixed length parameters. Okay, and when you take this fun2 also, it doesn't have any parameters. So when you are making a call to that function 2 also, you are not passing any parameter. So this is matching, right? But there will be some situations where you will actually define a function with one or two parameters, but you may want to call it by passing without any parameters or by passing more than this mentioned parameters during definition. C will not allow you. When you create a function in C language, if you are defining that function with only two parameters and that two of both are of type integers, then you must definitely call that function by passing only two integer parameters. You cannot even change the type of the parameters also. They must be exactly matching. All both the parameters that you're passing must be integers only, right? And not only that, if you define that function with two parameters, then you must pass exactly two parameters. You cannot pass one or more than two parameters. Exactly, it must match the number of parameters. So the number of parameters and the type of parameters that you're passing must match in both the definition of the function and calling of the function. That is a restriction in C language, and even it is the same in Java also. But Python allows you to pass uh, different parameters. Even though you declared that function or defined that function with two parameters, you can pass only one parameter, or you can pass more than two parameters also. Okay. So in that way, Python allows you to write functions with different types of parameters. So let us see those different types of parameters. As of now, we have seen fixed length parameters. That means if two parameters are defined for that function, you are making a call to the function also with only two parameters, exactly same as in C. But in the next programs, you will be seeing different types of parameters which are not there in C. Okay. So first we'll see keyword parameters which we already used in uh, print function, right? So now look at this program. We are defining a function called keyPair. It has three print statements, and look at the parameters names. I'm using name, roll number, and branch as the parameter names. Okay, and then here this is the line where I'm making a call to the keyPair function. So when I make a call, observe how the parameters are passed. They are similar to those end keyword and separator keyword in print function, right? We'll write end is equal to, in double quotes, will specify anything, and similarly sep is equal to will specify anything, right? So in the same way, here in this function, we need to mention a keyword. So if you look at the first one, the keyword is name. So this keyword that you are writing here must be matching exactly with the parameter name that you mentioned during the definition of this keyPair function. So whatever name you have given there, so exactly the same keyword must be used here. Okay. and then after the keyword you have to use an assignment operator and mention the value that you want to pass for that parameter. So the value that I want to pass is Vinay. So coming to the second one, the keyword is roll number, and the value that I'm passing is 16911A0540, and third parameter keyword is branch, and the value is CSE. So when you want to make a call to these functions, so you need to make a call in this way. You have to mention both the keyword as well as its value. How to mention that keyword and values? By using the keyword name and followed by it an assignment operator, and then the value within double quotes. Okay. Uh, so when you run this program, look at the output. Name is Vinay, roll number is 540, and branch is CSE. So how we are printing that? Using the same print function. So I need not discuss about these three print statements, right? So we are used to these print statements till now. So we are printing all the name, all these things. Now, for example, instead of this name, I would like to change this keyword name to something NAM. So now let us run this program and see the output. So you'll get an error because the keyword is not matching. So in the keyword key pair function, we have mentioned the first keyword parameter as NAME name, but while calling it, instead of using NAME, I have used NAM only. So it will generate an error for me. So I hope you understood, right? So whatever parameter name you have mentioned here during the definition of this function, key pair, when you are making a call to that function, it must be exactly matching here. Right, first keyword is name, first parameter is name, so the first parameter must be name only. Exactly, it must match with case and letters. And second keyword is roll number, so the same keyword must be used here. You cannot change it to something else. If you want to change it, here you have to change it first, and then make the change here also when you make a call. So without doing that, if you just want to make a change here when you are calling the function, it will not work. Okay, and see, for example, let me remove this roll number here. And give it as the first parameter here. Roll number is equal to 16911A0540. Name is Vinay, branch is CSC. So I have changed the order, right? Actually, first one must be name, second one must be roll number, and third one must be branch. But what I'm using here, roll number as a first parameter, keyword parameter. So let us execute it and check. Are you getting? Yes, you're getting, right? So what you must understand is the order does not matter, only the keywords must be matching. Okay, order does not matter, only keywords must be matching. There must be three keywords: name, roll number, branch. Okay, there must be three keywords: name, roll number, branch. But whatever order they appear, it doesn't matter. The order doesn't matter, only the names matter. Names and values matter. Okay, understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So this is about keyword parameters. Then we'll see one more possibility. Let us check. I'll remove this third parameter. So will I get an output? I'll not get an output because the number of parameters is not matching, right? So the number of parameters must match, and the keywords must match, but order does not matter. Keywords must match and the number of parameters must match, but the order of the keyword parameters that you are passing may be different. You can use different order, but the keywords must match and the number of parameters must match. Okay. So now we'll see another type of parameters. So these parameters are called as variable length parameters or arbitrary parameters. Okay. So look at the function. How many functions I have created here? One function
Two.
called varlen pair.
2.
So till here, this is the function definition. And immediately after that, without indentation, I have written a statement making a call to varlen pair function. Then after that, I have defined another function varlen, and immediately after that, I made a call to the same varlen function. Okay. So now look at the functions how they are defined. So this will be the first statement to be executed because this is outside the functions. So and this is the first statement which is outside the function, and this is the second statement which is outside the function. But when this statement gets executed, it is making a call to varlen pair function. So the code inside this varlen function, varlen pair function, gets executed, and after that, this function will not be executed, right? Because it must be called. If it is not called, it will not be executed. So because it is not called, it will go to this statement. It will come to this statement, and this statement gets executed. And what is this statement doing? It is making a call to this function. So this function gets executed after this, right? And so now look at the function how it is defined. Within the parenthesis of this function, I have mentioned star names. Star names. So what is the meaning of the star names? Means when you don't know uh, how many parameters you would like to pass to that function during the call to that function exactly, then you can mention star and mention any name for that one. Then this type of function will allow any number of parameters to be passed. Even though you didn't mention the number of parameters and all, it will allow you to pass any number of parameters, right? So as such, if you look at this statement which is making a call to varlen pair function, what is it doing? It is passing four different parameters, all four of string type. First one is Sachin, second one is Ganguly, third one is Sehwag, and fourth one is Yuvraj, right? So these parameters will be passed in the form of a tuple and stored in this variable called names. Now the names variable will become a tuple. Python tuple already we have seen yesterday, right? So it becomes a tuple. So now if you want to access a particular value in this tuple, how can you access it? Using a for loop you can access it, or you can use the index individually, names of 0, names of 1, names of 2, names of 3, like that you can access it, right? So as such, because this is a tuple now, names of 0 will contain what? Sachin, right? And names of 1 will contain Ganguly, names of 2 will contain Sehwag, and names of 3 will contain Yuvraj. So as such, when this program is executed and when it makes a call to varlen pairs, this for loop gets executed and it will print name, right? So look at, don't get confused with this names. Names is a tuple and name is a loop control variable. Instead of IEX like that, I've used name for name in names. This is the loop control variable and this names is the tuple. It is a tuple. Okay. So this will loop through the tuple, and during every iteration it will print the each and every element. So it will iterate for 4 times. During the first iteration, it will print Sachin. Second iteration, it will print Ganguly. Third iteration, it will print Sehwag. And fourth iteration, it will print Yuvraj. Okay. So after that is executed, then we'll come and call this varlen function. This is another function. So here also what we have done is we have used a variable length parameter whose name is values. Now this values will become a tuple. This also will become a tuple. So how many parameters I'm passing when I pass parameters? I'm passing 1 to 9. Totally 9 parameters I'm passing. All of them are integers, right? So all these integers will be stored in this values tuple starting from index 0. So values of 0 is nothing but 1, values of 1 is nothing but 2, values of 2 is 3, 3 is 4, so on up to values of 8 will be 9, right? Then in the function definition, what I'm doing is I'm declaring a variable s and initializing it to 0, and then I'm iterating through this tuple using for loop for I in values. Then I'm using this logic for adding the current value of I to the existing value of s. So s is initialized 0, 0 plus I value will be first value in the tuple is 1, right? So 0 plus 1 will become 1. In the next iteration, the second value is 2, 1 plus 2 will become 3. So s value becomes 3, and in the next iteration 3 plus 3 becomes 6. So in that way, what you're doing is you're adding all the elements of your tuple, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus so on up to 9. So the result will be displayed by this print statement after the for loop is exited. So notice that this print statement is part of this varlen function, but it is not part of this for block. So for loop is ending here only up to this second statement, up to this s is equal to s plus I. Okay, so this print statement is not part of for loop. If it is put inside for loop, then we have to give one more indentation space like this, right? But we are not giving. So what does it mean? It is not part of for block, but it is part of this varlen function. Okay, so now what will be the output? So let us see the output. So look at the output. So as we discussed, Sachin, Ganguly, Sehwag, Gulnaz are printed, and then after that sum is printed as 45. 1 to so on up to 9. When you add them, the result will be 45. If you include 10, it will become 55. So you must have seen this during mathematics in schooling, right? So sum of first 10 numbers. So 1 to, if n value is 10, you'll add all the numbers from 1 to 10. So 1 plus 2 plus so on up to 10 will be 55. So if you remove 10, it will be 45. 1 to 9 is 45, right? This is the output. So you understood, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So
Yes,
now
sir.
we have completed uh, keyword parameters and var length, variable length or arbitrary parameters, right? And the first functions that we have seen here, the factorial or this function fun1 fun, fun2 fun2. So these are called as required parameter functions. A, B are required parameters because you cannot call this function without passing this function, without passing these two values. So that's why we call them as required parameters. Okay. So how will you distinguish between the required parameters, variable length parameters, and uh, keyword parameters? For a required parameters, the function definition will have within the parenthesis only the variable name separated by comma. If it is keyword parameter, then you will have a keyword followed by an assignment operator and its value in double quotes, right? Yes or no? While calling it,
Yes, sir.
yeah. So look at this keyword parameters. The definition will not differ, but while calling it, you will make a difference. So how you are calling it? You are calling it by mentioning the keyword and assignment operator and followed by the value of that keyword. If it is variable length parameter, how you are making a call? You are making a call normally, but look at the definition. The definition of that function will have a star before that variable length parameter. So that star is followed by a name or a variable which is nothing but a tuple, right? So now we'll see So now look at this function. So the function name is my underscore function. So look at how many stars are there here. Double stars are there, right? Earlier we have used a single star, which indicates that they are variable length parameters or arbitrary parameters. But here you have double star symbols, double star symbols, which indicates that these parameters are nothing but variable length keyword parameters or arbitrary keyword parameters. Variable length keyword parameters or arbitrary keyword parameters. I'll mention it here in the comment section. Or arbitrary keyword parameters. Is that okay? Earlier we have used normal arbitrary keyword parameters. Sorry, normal arbitrary parameters or keyword parameters. Sorry, variable length parameters. Now we are using variable length keyword parameters. So that means when you are using a keyword parameter also, if you don't know exactly how many parameters you're going to pass, how many keyword parameters you're going to pass, then you can define that function and mention in the parenthesis double star followed by a name, which will also become a tuple. Okay, so if you want to access the contents of this one, you have to use the name of the tuple kid followed by within the square brackets. If the keyword is a string, then you have to specify that string within double quotes here. Okay, if the keyword is string, then you have to specify it as a double quote within the double quote like this. So when I call this function my function, or what I'm doing, I'm passing first keyword as fname and its value as Sachin, comma second keyword as lname, which means last name. Fname is first name, lname is last name. Lname is equal to Tendulkar. So I'm passing these two variable length keyword parameters to this function. So now if I access simply kid uh, lname, then what is it going to do? It is going to display only the last name parameter,
Tendulkar.
right? If you want to print first name also, then you can use kid of fname. So that will print both the values, right? So the output of this function now will be what?
Tendulkar.
It will be Tendulkar. His last name is Tendulkar. Okay, right. So this is about arbitrary keyword parameters we have seen, and arbitrary parameters, simple arbitrary parameters which does not use keywords. And then we have seen variable length parameters or arbitrary parameters. So these are two types. And what is the other one? Simple keyword parameters. And the fourth one is required parameters.
Excellent, correct.
Hmm? Required parameters. First one is required parameters, which are common, which are similar to C function parameters, right? They are called as
Yes,
required
sir.
parameters. Second one is variable length parameters or arbitrary parameters. Third one is keyword parameters, and fourth one is arbitrary keyword parameters or variable length keyword parameters. So in this way, in four different ways, you can pass parameters to a function. Okay. So look at this program. We'll wind up today with this program. I'm creating a list with its name as A, and how many items are stored? 1, 2, 3, 4, 50, 30, 20, and 10.
Oh,
So look at the print statement, print all of A. Okay, and look at B. B is also a list containing two values called true comma false, which are of type boolean type, boolean data type, and then I'm printing all of B, right? And look at the next statement, print absolute value of minus 30 is abs of minus 30, and a variable C is created with its value as 10, and we have used this type function already. And the next statement I'm using bin binary, and then sum A, right? So let me execute this program and show you the output, then you'll understand. If you don't understand, then I'll tell you. Built in. So what is the output? True, false, absolute value of minus 30 is 30, and class int, type of what we type of C is int, and binary value of 10 is 1010. So before that actual output 1010, you have 0b, which stands for binary value. Okay, so the value that is after 0b is nothing but considered as binary value. If you have 0o, small letter o, then you have to understand that it is an octal number. If you have 0x, small letter x, you have to understand that it is a hexadecimal number. Okay, for normal decimal numbers you will not have any preceding characters like that, but for the remaining three number system, for octal number system you will have 0o, for binary system you will have 0b, for hexadecimal number system you will have 0x. But why this all of A
Sir,
is not yeah,
that is the doubt, sir. Why all of A is not printed?
yeah. So A is a list, right? When I print all of A, it is not printing, right? So now I'll remove this all. It is printing, right? Now let me, instead of 50, let me give where did I make any mistake at line number 9? Okay, so this you will get an error because we have used print sum of A. Even now also I'm not getting. But for B you are getting, right? So what do you understand from this?
Only Boolean values will be printed.
Only boolean values will be printed. So you can use this all function with boolean values, but not integers or strings. Okay, fine.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so these are some of the, just I want to show you some predefined functions. There are a lot many predefined functions in Python, but we need to learn them one after the other as and when required. So yesterday we have seen dictionaries, and we have seen some functions which are exclusive to dictionaries, and tuples also we have seen some functions, predefined functions, and day before yesterday list functions also we have seen, and already type function we have seen. Now today we have seen another function called bin function. Some will print all the sum of all the values in a list, right? So it must be an integer value. Okay, so then only it will be useful, otherwise we cannot use it. So in that way there are many built-in functions or predefined functions you call them. So till now we have been today using user defined functions, right? So these are some built-in functions. There are many other functions, we'll see one as and when we learn new concepts. Along with them, the associated predefined functions or built-in functions will be dealt with. Okay, fine. So we'll